Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a good weekend. If there's any questions, concerns, please type them in, and we'll get to them as we go through the call. So here we go. First thing I want to talk about is being late to the party. And what I mean by this is, as usual, there's a lot of indicators that this market may be exhausted. But I think always the best indicator. Let me hear some of you people what you think. What do you think is the best indicator when a market is exhausted and we need to see some correction? See some answers to that. Nobody has any ideas? High volatility? Yeah, I'd go along with that. Well, here's the point, as you guys are thinking, money flowing into equities. Eric, that's it right there. Money flowing into equities. Because if you look at what's happened here, $100 billion has been added to stock funds and ETFs in the past 12 months. That's 10 times more than the previous 12 months. So what does that tell you? So $100 billion in the last 12 months have been added to stock funds and ETFs. That's 10 times more than the previous 12 months, which is typical. When you go back and look at the last 3 crashes and how the public reacts, what they do is what? They pump money in. Yeah, right, Lyle, herd mentality. They pump money in. At the very end of the market, they wait until they've seen the market go up for a couple of years, right, before they start putting money in. So after the market's gone up for a couple of years, then they put the money in just in time for the market to what? Correct. So, I mean, this is over and over and over. They've done this. They've done it in 2000 crash, the 2008 crash, and in the current crash, they're doing it all over again. And unfortunately, when it comes to investing, and are professional investors any better at this, guys? Are professional investors any better at this? No, they're not. So, oops, there we go. Let's go back here. So, be aware of that. And again, we're seeing some cracks in the whole market in the last week, aren't we? So this is crazy. As soon as, what they say is, as soon as the cab driver starts giving you stock tips, you need to get out of the market. And that's kind of where we're at right now. Then I want to talk about the pivot. So right now we're in the middle of a health insurance season, and we do have some long-term care insurance guys on the call as well. I want both of you guys to know, especially the health insurance guys, we have an excellent pivot conversation that turns your conversation from health insurance into conversation about the 21-point checklist. And if you can turn that conversation into a 21-point checklist, you can move that money. Because the biggest problem health insurance guys have, and long-term care insurance guys have, and Social Security seminar people have is what? Is when you help them with their Social Security, or you help them with their long-term care, or you help them with their health insurance, and then you say, can I take a look at your investment statements, and what do they say? I'd like to help you with your investments as well, and what do they say when you do that? No? All right, Bill. Why? They're doing fine. Exactly, Trevor. They're doing fine. They say, listen, I've got an investment guy. You're my health insurance guy. Or I've got an investment guy. You're my long-term care guy. Or I've got an investment guy. You're my Social Security guy. So we've got an excellent pivot conversation that gets them to say, oh, geez, would you look at my statements? So if you're a health insurance guy or know of a health insurance guy that you could team with, let me know, and I'll walk you through that script, or I'll get you that script, okay? Same thing with long-term care. So whether you're a health insurance guy or you know a health insurance guy, and here's the thing, guys. Health insurance guys right now, how are they doing? How are health insurance guys doing right now? They're getting killed. Why? They're getting killed because many of the insurers are no longer paying or have cut their renewals. Their commissions are down. You've got the online thing. So they are hurt really bad right now. So if you've got a buddy or you've got a contact in the health insurance, you should be doubling up efforts trying to get that person to work with you, because with this pivot script, you're going to be able to work with that guy and convert a ton of his clients over to 21-point checklists. And when you do a 21-point checklist, you're going to convert a ton of those people to moving all their money to you. So have that in the back of your mind, okay? Any questions or concerns on that? we'll get on with the.
And Mike, do you want to
so
just Mike? Do you want to just go ahead and do the why questions? I think that slide is actually not displaying.
Oh, that's weird. We'll go back. Huh. Did you fire Tricia later?
You're actually in the wrong presentation, but I was trying to be politically correct about that. So
I'm in the wrong presentation?
Yeah, you're not in the one that she fixed those things in. So.
Well, is it going to be a problem for the
Nope.
animation and things?
The other ones I think are all okay. It's just the first part.
So here we go. So this is a power of attorney meeting with one of our guys and a client. They're going to walk through and listen to what we can hear. If I can get up here. Here we go.
If I go across the street and I get hit by a bus, there's three possible outcomes. You know, I'm fairly good. I don't think I can prove that yet. Well, here's the thing. I've never done this, but Frosty Valley is right across the street. Okay. Not that I've ever done this. Grab my clubs and just walk across the street and go hit a few golf balls. If I go across the street and I get hit by a bus, there's three possible outcomes. You know, I'm fairly good in shape. Let's say I just bounce off the ground and get back up and start hanging around. Do I need a power of attorney? No, not at all. If I get killed, which of those documents do I need? I need the will. The will, right. So the power of attorney is really for when we're somewhere in between. Does that make sense? Yeah. Usually if I can't sign something, so I have a vegetable. Right. I have a client whose wife has severe MS, and she cannot write. She's quadriplegic, confined to a wheelchair. So he has power of attorney over her, and usually it's for those types of matters that relate to finances. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Now, let's say I have an account. You take $10,000 to your advisor.
So did he go back here? Does the person understand when you use a power of attorney? The client? Yep, I would agree with that. So here we go. Now he's going to tell the story about how important that power of attorney is.
And he turns it into $100,000. How do you feel about that? I pay my dinner. Oh. You're happy about that. Why are you happy about it? Because I have more money. Yeah. Which is the root of all evil.
Okay, so did he tell the story about how drastic not having a power of attorney can be? Did he go through the consequences of having a power of attorney? No. Not at all. So let me play it again. Guys, this is important. Why is the power of attorney doing this the power of attorney so well at the outside the box or one-on-one with a client at the 21-point checklist? Why is it so important? Why is doing the power of attorney so important? They're all wrong, Bob. You're exactly right. It's the one thing that we're guaranteed every single person is wrong, and it's also the first time, which is the reason why we can get them to make appointments at the outside the box with this, and it's also the first time at the 21-point checklist where we're going to get them to lob a problem at their current advisor. So now, but the problem is this, guys. If they think, oh yeah, I need to get my power of attorney updated, that's a good idea. What's that worth, guys? Oh yeah, the power of attorney, get that updated. Yeah, I'll do that sometime. What's that worth? What is a good idea worth? Zero, exactly, nothing, zippo. So the only way you're going to get them to say, what's the only way we're going to get them to say, holy crap, I need to get my power of attorney updated? What if they know it's wrong? If they know their power of attorney is wrong, are they going to say, holy crap, do I need to get this updated? Ah, Frank said it. If they see the consequences of not having it updated. Just the fact that it's not right isn't even enough for most people. They need to be scared out of their pants that something could happen between talking to you and walking to their car that put them into a world of hurt. So how do we do that? How do we make sure that they realize they have huge consequences? We walk through the story. We walk through the story. So they got to walk through the story, and he just stepped right over it. Why do advisors tend to and here's the story I often hear from guys doing the power of attorney. So I'm going to step out of this role play and go into tell you a different story. And here's how they tell the story. They say, I'm going to tell you a whole different story, nothing to do with power of attorney, okay? But here's how you would tell the power of attorney story in this detail. There was this baby that was born, you know, and a lot of people thought that he was a pretty special baby. And then as he grew up, you know, he wanted to go into the farmer or into his dad's business. So he went to his dad's business and was an apprentice to his dad. And then, you know, in his late 20s, he just had some epiphanies and made him extremely smart. And people started to flock to hear this guy speak because he was so brilliant. And in fact, he started to create such excitement that at age 33, a lot of powers that be got together and they killed him. So what story is that? What story is that, guys? Jesus. Exactly, Bill. It's Jesus. Now, I told that story, and it took me about 10 seconds to tell that story. How long is the Bible? And how much detail is the Bible? So when you're telling the power of attorney story, how much detail do you want? Do you want it technicolor? Why do you want your power of attorney story technicolor about getting hit by the bus and then the stress that my wife has to go through and the bills are coming in and she can't pay them and she's even now going to have to go in the hospital because she is under duress and it's terrible because the bank and the brokerage won't release the money and I have to be technicolor. Why? So yes, it's to get at their emotion, make it real life evidence. So they come to realize it they have to visualize it, Dale, exactly. So you're right, Trevor. They have to come to realize not telling them. They have to come to realize themselves. And if you ever have been to a movie, a good movie, how much do you squirm in your seat? How much are you living through the eyes of that character in the movie? So I want them squirming as my wife is squirming while I'm sitting there and the bills are coming in and she's overwhelmed and nobody will help her. The bank and brokerage won't give her the money. I want them to live that terrible, stressful situation because then they realize that having a power of attorney, not having a power of attorney that works, is what? That's a real consequence. Not just it's a good idea. There's a consequence of them not having the power of attorney done correctly. Okay? So this guy just walked right by that. So now we're wondering if they even get how important the power of attorney is. And then now we're going to go. He's going to go right into the analogy to get them to realize that the making money is one thing an advisor does, but what's the most important thing an advisor does? Making money is something that all of us as advisors do, but what's more important than even making money for our clients? Access, right, Frank? Access. So I'm going to start it right at the beginning again so you can hear that this guy, listen, tell me if these guys even that he's talking to even have a clue of how important the power of attorney is. There we go.
I don't think I can prove that yet. Well, here's the thing. I've never done this, but Frosty Raleigh right across the street. Okay, not that I've ever done this. Grab my clubs and just walk across the street in the afternoon to go hit a few golf balls. If I go across the street and I get hit by a bus, there's three possible outcomes. You know, I'm fairly good in shape. Let's say I just bounce off the ground and get back up and start hanging around. Do I need a power of attorney? No, not at all. If I get killed, which of those documents do I need? I need the will. The will, right. So the power of attorney is really for when we're somewhere in between. Does that make sense? Yeah. Usually if I can't sign something. So I have a client whose wife has severe MS, and she cannot write. She's quadriplegic, confined to a wheelchair. So he has power of attorney over her, and usually it's for those types of matters that relate to finances. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Now.
So guys, do you see? And then the story he used, instead of using our story, he talked about a client with MS. So is that really going to get that guy in the shoes of needing a power of attorney? I mean, certainly a client with MS, yeah, the spouse needs it. But what's this client thinking with that story? Right, Jay? I'd say no, he doesn't. Why? Why? What's the client thinking? Yeah, he can't relate to MS. Well, you know what? I guess it's not as important for us because my wife's not sick like that. We have to get them to, the story has to put them into a situation that's just like who? Them. So if you don't try to vary our story unless you run it by Jeff or me first, because almost always. So Jeff, are you on the call? See if we can get him unmuted.
Yep, I'm on the call.
So Jeff, when
Yep,
we hear guys change the story, how often does the story work with what we're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, it really doesn't mesh with what we're trying to accomplish. So yeah, be careful about changing those stories.
But it vaguely seems like it, right? Like this story vaguely seemed like it meshed, right? Because it was, well, in fact, in this advisor's mind, it meshed perfectly, right? Because it's talking about a power of attorney. But is his friend retired?
Yeah, we don't know.
No. And is the friend has a wife who has some illness? You know, a chronic illness?
Right.
So if they're not retired and they don't have chronic illness, guess what they think? Oh, this doesn't really apply to me. So is there any consequences here? Thanks, Jeff. Is there any consequences here in this guy's mind of getting this done now, or is there going to be big consequences? No, there's not. None whatsoever. So now, yeah, and Michael also points out, he says, does that make sense? Is that what we want to ask, guys? What do we want to ask Michael? What kind of question do we want to ask Michael? Open-ended. Yes, Brooks. Very good, Brooks. Open-ended. And what kind of open-ended? We've been talking about this. The why, does that make sense? Yes. So the why and what kind of, not have you seen this before, the why, what, how, Michael is exactly right. And John and Brooks have got it. So, and what kind of why question do we want to ask? A why question has what involved in it? Action, exactly. So I'm going to step out of this tape review here and get to what Missy was talking about. So those of you who've been on the Friday calls, good for you, because we've been working. Now, last week you had, last Friday you listened to how to do things the right way, but previous to that we were working on what kind of questions? The why action questions. So if you go to, can you all see the website here? I get a yes?
Yep, we sure can.
Okay. So if you go down to Outside the Box Magic 2014, go to Video and Audio Training. There's a bunch of why action questions, and you guys asked me for, oh great. So you guys asked me for that. So I did put it together under duress, because why didn't I want why didn't I want to put these questions together for you guys? Because I want you guys to be able to do it yourself. But I had so many people ask me for it that I went ahead and put together a bunch of questions to at least get you started here, okay? Who is that?
Maybe Jeff?
Who is that?
Possibly Jeff.
Why don't you mute yourself there, dude? Okay, so why action questions? I have a bunch of why action questions for power of attorney. Why do you need to take action right away? Why do you need to make sure that these 9 things are in your power of attorney? What's going to happen if you don't take time to make sure so there's a whole bunch of why questions there, a whole bunch of why questions for the Social Security portion of the event, and a whole bunch of why questions, action questions for the win-win-win. So under duress. Now, do I want you to memorize these guys? No, because you need to be able to do what? Do it off the cuff. But at least this will get your creative juices going. Is that helpful to you guys? You know where to find it now? Okay, so I'm going to go back to tape review. Oh. Okay. Now the tape is going to go into the 100 or the 50,000 versus the 100,000. So what's the purpose of the 50,000 versus the 100,000 exercise with the client? Access to the money, right, Frank? So here we go.
Let's say I have an account. You take $10,000 to your advisor, and he turns it into $100,000. How do you feel about that?
Can I pay my dinner?
No. You're happy about that. Why are you happy about it?
Because I have more money.
Yeah. Which is the
So, do you know what did he do there, guys? What did he do that wasn't very good there? Yeah, he didn't do a GOTS, John. Exactly, he didn't do GOTS. what he did is he asked the question. He goes, well, why is that important? Do you get why that sounds like he's what? Interrogating the guy. So when the guy gives you a right answer, you need to what? As John says, you need to get on his side. Not sound like you're badgering him. So I'm going to play that again.
Somewhere in between. Does that make sense? Yeah. Usually if I can't sign something, so I have a...
Forced or jail or...
Sorry, guys. I backed up too far.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. No, I get it. Let's say, though, you give another $10,000 to
I'm sorry. No, I didn't.
advisor, and he turns it into... Let's say I have an account. You take $10,000 to your advisor, and he turns it into $100,000. How do you feel about that?
I pay my dinner.
You're happy about that. Why are you happy about it?
So the guy tells a joke, and what did he not do? The guy was trying to be funny, and what did he not do? Oh, you're happy about that. Why are you happy about that? Do you see how he's taken something that could turn this into a fun conversation and making it sound like he's what? Grilling him. You don't want to do that, guy. So the guy tells a little joke, you got to laugh or chuckle. Yeah, I mean that's right. So and why would it be so important? You know, why would you want the 100,000? I mean, you got to. This guy. Do you notice the tone of his voice? The fact that he didn't laugh. He sounds like he's what? Sounds like he's got this guy in the room with the two-way mirror and grilling him. Can't do that, guys.
Because have more money.
Yeah.
Which is the root of all evil. Go ahead.
Love of money is the root of all evil. But you're right.
Having it's bad even. I mean, we know people got money to change.
Again, told another joke. His wife laughed, but who didn't? Yep, he's correcting. Somebody said, Frank said that. I'm going to play that again so you can hear it. So not that he did not laugh, but...
Let's say I have an account. You take $10,000 to your advisor, and he turns it into $100,000. How do you feel about that?
I pay my dinner.
You're happy about that. Why are you happy about it?
Because have more money.
Yeah.
Which is the root of all evil. Go ahead.
Love of money is the root of all evil. But you're right.
Okay, so the guy says what? The money, which is the root of all evil, and kind of laughs. His wife laughs. And then the advisor does what? Corrects him. No, it's the love of money that's the root of all evil. What the hell? How did that move the conversation ahead? Why did it? I mean, what in reverse exactly? Why did that help? So do you see? You know, it's like when somebody says, "Boy, it's hot out here today," and you say, "Well, it's going to get hotter." How? What's the point of correcting somebody like that? Except to what? So why did the guy want to show or to correct him? To quote unquote help him? No. Why did the advisor correct him? Want to make the agent feel important, right, Jay? So here we go. But don't do that. What's the if somebody says something wrong like that that has nothing to do with the conversation that we're talking about, which is access to the money, just let it what? Let it go. Laugh. Jeez, this is criminy. So here we go.
Having it's bad even. I mean, we know people got money to change. Well, look at some people win the lottery.
Well,
see now, because the guy corrected him, what's the guy feel like he needs to do? What? He's defending himself. Terrific. So we got the guy defending himself, arguing over something that has nothing to do with what we're trying to talk about, which is access to money. Do you see how bad that can go very, very quickly? So let's see if this guy can now, we all make those mistakes then. This guy had better what now? Now that the guy's defending him, he better what? When this guy finished defending himself, he better get on his side how much? A lot. Let's see what happens.
I don't think you can come up with 10%. Well, I know you can't come up with 10% at benefit of them. They always are forced or jail or not happy.
exactly right.
Yeah.
No, you're exactly right. No, I get it. Let's say, though, you can...
So what did he do there? Exactly, John. He should be falling on his sword, but instead, yeah, I get it. But let's say instead, so what's he doing again? Correcting him. He crashed and burned, exactly right. So I'm going to back it up just about 10, 15 seconds here, if I can.
It's benefited them. They only been out forced or jail or not happy.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So you're exactly right. No, I get it. Let's say, though, you get another.
Yeah, so Frank says he's being agenda-driven. That's right. So he's like, forget what you're saying. Let's get back on task here. Guys, you can't do that. Yes, we have to have an agenda. But if they pull us off the agenda, we have to what? Acknowledge what they said. Get on their side about whatever they said. So this guy's defending himself, and he just what? Dismissed it. Just don't do that.
10,000 to the advisor, and he turns it into 50,000. How do you feel?
This sounds like a parable, Patty.
The point to all this.
Yeah.
So again, the guy tells, this sounds like a parable, laughs. And does this advisor have any sense of humor whatsoever? Now, of those of you that were on the call last Friday when we played Bob's tape, he was worried he laughed too much. Did he laugh too much? Did Bob laugh too much on that call? I got one no. I got another no. No, he didn't. No. Everyone was laughing, Trevor. Exactly. Everyone was laughing, which means the meeting's going what? We love people who what? Laugh at our jokes. We love people who we're having fun with. So not only, I mean, here's the great thing about Bob. He's delivering bad news, but the people are what? Having fun getting the bad news. That was awesome. It was awesome. So, yeah, and exactly what's happening is that this guy's too agenda-driven. He's too worried about the script. Guys, the script, is GOTS more important or is the script more important? GOTS will close the deal. The script just merely moves it ahead quicker. Yes, absolutely know the script. Otherwise, you're going to be wandering around in the wilderness for 40 years trying to close the deal, but at least you're still in the game. But if you're great at the script and you are lousy at GOTS, you're not going to be wandering around for 40 years out in the wilderness. You're going to be kicked out of the wilderness. You're going to be slayed by the client, and they'll never want to see you again. Okay?
Okay, which would you rather have, the 50 or the 100? Okay, now let's say there's a catch. So what's the catch? You got a choice between the two accounts. The account with $100,000 in it, you can't get at unless it's a month.
Again, the guy said there's always a catch. Did he acknowledge that? Or did he just keep telling his story? Just kept telling his story. You got to listen to the clients and acknowledge what they're saying.
Month that begins with an O, and it's the 31st of the month, and it has to be 75 degrees outside. Okay. That's the only time you can get at the money. The account with $50,000 in it, you can get out whenever you want to. So if you had a choice between the two accounts, which would you choose?
When they give access to each other.
Yeah. 99% of people say that. Why would we say that?
Because it's there. You can use it.
Right. What good is money? What kind of advisor would I be if my clients came in and said, if they couldn't get out their money, if Mrs. Smith came to the door and said, hey, something bad has happened. My husband's been in a car accident. I need $15,000. And I read through her stuff and I said, I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith, but those circumstances don't qualify. I'm sorry, I can't give you the money. What type of advisor would you think I am? And would she be right? Yeah, probably. Yeah, she would be right. That's what concerns me about this. You don't have a power.
So did he do an okay job there? I want to play that. We'll go back about 30 seconds if I can make it happen here. Here we go. He said, what kind of advisor would I be, which is right.
$50,000 in it, you can get out whenever you want to. So if you had a choice between the two accounts, which would you choose?
When they give access to each other.
Yeah. 99% of people say that. Why would we say that?
Because it's there. You can use it.
Right. What good is money? What kind of advisor would I be if my clients came in and said, if they couldn't get out their money, if Mrs. Smith came to the door and said, hey, something bad has happened. My husband's been in a car accident. I need $15,000. And I read through her stuff and I said, I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith, but those circumstances don't qualify. I'm sorry, I can't give you the money. What type of advisor would you think I am? And would she be right? Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So you didn't hear that. The wife said lousy And he said, would that be right? And the man said, absolutely. So is that what we're looking at? Now, first of all, he said, what kind of advisor would I be? Is that what he's supposed to say? Is he supposed to point the finger at himself or at the current advisor? I think we've got confusion on the board here. So should you be saying, what kind of advisor would I be if you couldn't have access to the money when you needed it most? Should I be saying, what kind of advisor would I be, or what kind of advisor would he be? So Michael is saying, yes, it should be I. See, that's where we're getting some problems here. People are saying that it should be, what kind of advisor would he be? No, 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 no. See, this is the first time we're even getting close to pointing the finger at that advisor. And remember, we're using the boil the frog mentality, right? So how do you boil a frog? If you throw him into the hot water, what's the frog going to do? He's going to jump out. So we begin by what? Turning the heat up slowly. So what we're going to do is we say, so he did this perfectly right. He said, so what kind of advisor would I be? I mean, and he didn't do it. He did that part right, but you're supposed to set it up better. You're probably wondering, now, why is Mike spending so much time talking about a power of attorney? I mean, it seems like we're spending a lot of time on power of attorney. That has nothing to do with investment. So why am I spending so much time on power of attorney? Well, let me ask you a question. What kind of advisor would I be? Because remember, we use this power of attorney to what? Get money when you what? Need it most. Exactly, when you need it most. So what kind of advisor would I be if a client came to me and said, listen, Frank's in the long-term care facility. I need this money because, you know, we need to pay for this. What kind of advisor would I be? Say, oh, sorry, can't have it. Power of attorney is perfectly legal, but you can't have it. What kind of advisor would I be if that happened? Well, you'd be a lousy one. Exactly, I'd be a lousy one. So I'm having them, what I'm hoping they'll do is what? If they admit that I'd be a lousy advisor for not paying attention to power of attorney, what am I hoping they'll do? They'll carry that over and say, wait a minute, my guy didn't talk about this stuff. Well, that means he's a lousy financial advisor too. I'm hoping they'll make the connection. But if they don't make the connection, is that okay? Yes, because even if they don't consciously make the connection, guess what they've done? No, they're not going to admit that their advisor is bad. They're going to think in their head maybe, but they're not going to say it out loud. But even if they do it subconsciously, I put a big crack between them and their current advisor. So as I start to move through these other things, they're going to jump to it closer. They're going to jump to the fact that he's got character flaws much sooner than if I don't do this up front. But it does it in a very obtuse way. Because if I just jump in and say, you know, why didn't your guy do this? What are they going to say? Well, he's not an attorney. He's not a whatever. They're going to do what? Because this is my first volley. Do I want my first volley to be direct and head-on? No, that's right, Frank. They're going to defend him. And as soon as they defend him out loud, guess what? If they defend him out loud, guess what? I'm in a world of hurt. Why? Because once they defend him out loud once, guess what they feel the need to continue to do? Defend him, because otherwise they're going to have to admit that they're wrong. So I have to back in here. So this is a flank attack. I'm saying, what kind of advisor would I be if I didn't get my clients, if I didn't spend the time and have the knowledge to make sure my clients' powers of attorney not only were legal but actually worked when they needed it? What kind of an advisor would I be? What kind of advisor would I be if they came to me and they needed money out and I said, hey, it's a perfectly legal power of attorney, but you can't get money out with it? So I'm letting them put the blame on me, but what will most intelligent people be thinking? You know what? I know that my guy is not doing this. This guy has got a problem as well. So that's what so he's doing that correctly there. So I'm glad that we caught that for some of the folks on the call.
Yes, you would be right. That's what concerns me about this. You don't have a power of attorney. You've already said on your joint accounts, not a problem, and you're exactly correct. You have accounts, though, that are only in your name and that are only in your name. And so if something bad happens to one of you, the other one can't get the money without that document. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right. I don't think so.
You have several like that. I'll show them, then we can go through them, but you have retirement accounts.
Oh, okay.
So now what's he doing again? So they're explaining that I don't even know what kind of accounts you're talking about here. So what's he doing? Well, I want you to listen to that again because he's actually correcting them again. So what kind of accounts, instead of, yeah, I mean, that's an excellent question. I mean, because what's the point of even talking to this if you don't have an accounts like that? So let's take a look at that and see if we have any accounts like that. Let's see. Instead he goes, well, you have discount account, discount, discount. I mean, what are you, dumbass? That's what it sounds like. Listen to him.
You've already said on your joint accounts, not a problem, and you're exactly correct. You have accounts, though, that are only in your name and that are only in your name. And so if something bad happens to one of you, the other one can't get the money without that document. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right.
I don't think so. You have several like that.
So they're saying, well, he's saying, well, yeah, the joint one's fine, but the ones that have only individual names on it, that's going to be not having a power of attorney is going to be a problem. And they said, what? Well, I don't even think we have accounts like that. Yeah, you do. It's right here and here and here. Dude, take a chill pill. So yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. Because if we don't have accounts that are individually owned, this wouldn't even be a document that you would need. Because remember, these people don't have a power of attorney, so they're trying to figure out why they are not stupid for not having a power of attorney. So they're very sensitive to the fact that this guy's telling you need a power of attorney and you don't have one, and they're like, dude, they're going to do everything possible to make themselves not look stupid. So he's got to be really gentle here, but instead he's grilling them. So when they say, well, I don't even know if we have accounts like that, they say, yeah, I mean, and that brings up a great point, because if you don't have accounts like that, this isn't even necessary. Because the power of attorney would be just another piece of paper, another reason to pay the attorney. So let's take a step back and let's look at whether because you're right, the joint ones don't need this, but let's take a step back and take a look at whether we have any individual accounts. So what kind of we have? Okay, the bank and the brokerage accounts. Yeah, both of these have what? Joints. You're right. So we don't need it there. And then we have the IRA for you and an IRA for the missus. And let's see. Now on the IRA, do they have two names? They have two names, but one's the owner and the other's the beneficiary. So does this work? When's the only time a beneficiary works? And so you help them work through it, and they learn, and they'll jump to, oh, I see. So this is an individual account. So get the IRA money, we would need the power of attorney. What's better, them coming to that conclusion, or you pushing them or telling them? See, when they come to their own conclusion, they feel good about it. When you tell them, they feel defensive about it. So here we go.
I'll show them, then we can go to them, but you have.
Now he's saying, and I'll show you. If you don't believe me, I'm going to prove to you that you're wrong and I'm right. Don't, dude.
Retirement accounts?
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, no, we're missing each other's retirement accounts, though.
You have a rollover, right? You have an IRA. Yeah. You have a couple of annuities. Several of them.
So see, the guy's trying to salvage some level of what? Dignity. And what's this advisor doing? No, I'm not going to give you any dignity. I'm going to make sure you and us both know that you're what? Stupid, and I'm smart, and I'm going to prove it to you. And guys, this is exactly how, believe me, I used to present. It's the same way when we listen to tapes that you guys present. But do you think you're blasting them? Because Bill says you're blasting them. Listening to this, can we see how he's blasting them? But when you're doing it, you don't feel like you're blasting him. What do you feel like you're doing? You don't feel like you're one-upping them. You don't feel like you're, exactly, you feel like you're teaching them. You're educating them. You're helping them. But do you see, because that's exactly how we feel. That's how I felt for 8 years, making $50,000 a year. I couldn't understand why these people would work with me because I was so smart and I was helping them. But when I listened to the tape, I wanted to throw up. And I was like, what a jerk. Because listening to this, can we tell that does this guy sound like he's helping them? Or does he sound like he's just blasting them? But I guarantee you, in his head, he feels like he's what? Just helping them. He's educating them. But that's not, on the receiving end of that, is that how it feels? That's right. You're talking down to them. So here we go.
Are in joint account. You're exactly right. But you do have some that are just in your name, or that are just in your name, and a power of attorney is what protects you from that occurrence. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I didn't know we had anything like that.
So this guy is still what? Yeah, it makes sense, but I don't have any like that. So when this guy tried to teach him, what was happening in the client's minds? Was he listening to what the guy was saying, or was he more concerned about what? See, that's what happens when you attack somebody. Do you think, when somebody attacks you, are you thinking about what they're saying, or what are you thinking? When somebody attacks you and calls you stupid, are you thinking about what they're saying, or what's going through your mind, guys? What's going through your mind when somebody's attacking you or telling you you're stupid? Are you listening to what they're saying? Yeah, that's right, Bob. You're listening to what you're going to say back. You're trying to figure out what to say back. You're not listening to them. You're thinking about in your head, what am I going to say back? So now all communication is broken down because this guy just spent a minute explaining to the guy that, no, you do have individual accounts. I think he explained it very well, but the guy didn't hear it because all he was thinking about is, I got to defend myself. See, that's where getting on their side, you never make sure that you're listening to them and they're listening to you. So here we go.
Let me just double check for all. Let's see if I have what I need. Okay, this is an example. This is, Patty, this is your annuity, right, your TSA.
Yeah.
It's just listed in her name. And that's the way it has to be, by the way.
Okay, yeah, that's the way it has to be. But I mean, on the other paperwork that goes with this, I'm on it.
As a beneficiary.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
See? He's still skating, isn't he? But really, is that how the guy's hearing it, or how's the guy hearing it? That he's proven he's wrong.
That makes perfect sense, okay? This is another one, same type of thing, where, Clark, you're listed here as an individual. This is your deferred comp program, okay? She is not.
So when somebody says something that's inaccurate, what's the first thing we say, guys? When somebody says something inaccurate, what do we say? Somebody said it earlier. John did, but I think John left the call. I'm sorry. That's right. You fall on the I'm sorry, Dino. Exactly right. I'm sorry. You apologize, Vic. Exactly right. So you say, oh, I'm sorry. I must have asked that question wrong. Let's take a step back and look at this again. So, you know, when we look at individual accounts, that means individual accounts can have one name on the front, but they still have beneficiaries, but it's still a what? Individual account. Because the only way that other beneficiary gets it is if you have to what? Die. Yeah, so you're absolutely right, because when you apologize, and then you assume that they're right, but make them tell you why they're right. Okay, so but instead, this guy, every time the guy's wrong, he jumps in and immediately what? Wants to, quote unquote, help him. Which the guy's taking is what? Help or arguing? Proving he's wrong.
And you're exactly right. If you die, guess what she has automatic access to because you're the beneficiary? Yeah.
So now he's doing a little bit of getting on the side finally, right? Because he said you're absolutely right about the beneficiary, but we'll see if it's enough.
It's not for when you're dead, though. It's for when you're living is when the issue comes into play.
Okay, I got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand.
Because the power of attorney is not for when you're...
Did you hear the tone of the guy's voice? What did the tone of the guy's voice sound? Yeah, I understand. Yeah, his energy was way down. Why? Defeated. Do we want our clients to feel like that you won the argument and they lost? No, that's bad.
The will is for when you're dead, okay?
And then he just adds fuel to the fire. The will is for when you're dead. Just to make, I know that you said you're wrong, but let me just make doubly sure that even though you said you're wrong, I'm going to make sure you doubly sure know that you're wrong. You can't do that, guys. Won the argument, lost the war. Exactly right, Jay.
I apologize.
Okay. So,
Oh, no! Now what'd the guy do? Did you hear that? I'll play it back. This is horrible. If you ever hear a client say this, you are in big trouble. Let me see here. Just back a little bit.
Well, that's one way, yeah. But
That's
if
one way.
if you become incapacitated or if I get messed up, you could go, if you have the partner, you could say, hey, I need that money because he wants Corvette now.
or whatever.
To be very
Well, because we need money when things go right or when things go wrong.
When things go wrong.
And most of the time when things go wrong is when people need the money. Here's the situation.
One that he brought out there, we can only have every one of us die.
Sorry I missed it, but the guy ended up apologizing. Which, do you ever want a client apologizing for being wrong? That's a bad, bad thing. So you want to be the one apologizing, not them.
No. That
Annuities?
money right there, either one. Yours you can take out, mine I can take out.
Sure.
I can't take it out of yours unless you're dead.
Right.
That's the way it is now.
Right.
Vice versa.
And this is where...
So the good thing here is the guy does get the point, right? Because he explained it to his wife, why the power of attorney is important. So the guy did get it, but he got it by what? Being belittled into realizing that instead of being positive about that.
We protect you from that happening. Having a properly structured power of attorney. If something bad happens to you and you need access to the money that's in his name, you have legal access to do that. Okay. If he's still alive. In fact, the chances of you becoming disabled or incompetent are better than you just passing away. Okay, so your will covers that stuff.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'm saying it's true for all of us.
Yeah,
So now the guy is trying to relieve some pressure about being embarrassed by laughing, and did the advisor jump on that opportunity to kind of smooth things out by laughing at a joke and saying, hey, we're all good friends here, and this is no. He just just moved right on.
Speaking. I mean, does that, okay. I mean, my question is, did any of the, you have several advisors you work with, that's fine. Did any of them ever talk to you about the necessity to have a power of attorney so that that circumstance didn't happen?
Thinking back, Paul.
Okay, this brings up now, he's going to do it the way we don't want you to do it. Because he's going after who right now? The advisor. And remember we just talked about 15 minutes ago? We want to say, what kind of advisor would I be? Not go after the advisor. Because you're going to see exactly why you don't want to go after the advisor here.
Paul told us. Because when they were doing theirs, he said, you better get a power of attorney.
See, now he's saying, well, Paul told us this. Paul told us this. Now, what do you really think Paul told him to do this? How many advisors tell their clients to get powers of attorney? So Paul didn't tell them to do this, but what do they feel the need to do to defend Paul?
We never did. And I think the guy from Valley. Wow.
Okay.
And he even defended his other broker. So even if you would say that one of them brought up the power of attorney, what do you think the likelihood of two brokers bringing up the power of attorney is? Slim to what? Nil. And he's even saying the other guy told him to get a power of attorney as well. So that's a big what? Swing and a miss.
Well, that's good. I'm glad at least they mentioned it. They should follow through with that because I think it just makes sense to have that. Okay.
I think Penny told us too.
On number 4.
Okay. Yeah.
Update your medical power.
Okay, so did this guy get what he wanted from the whole power of attorney? Or was it all a wasted effort? In fact, not only was it a wasted effort, did he move, did he move not at all forward, or did he actually move backwards? Because he didn't achieve what he wanted, and he was arguing with the guy. So when you do that, guess what's going to happen with the next topic? Do you think the guy's going to be cooperative, or is the guy's going to be even more sensitive, and the woman's going to be even more sensitive to any of this back and forth? See, these people started out the meeting very, very happy and outgoing, and you could imagine by the end of the meeting, guess what? They were surly. Yep, so they moved back. He's moved backward because he did. First of all, he didn't. They're defending their guy out loud. Terrific. The very thing we don't want. And they're actually making up stories to defend their guy. That's even worse. and then we caused this chasm between us, ourselves, and the clients by quote unquote helping them, but instead not helping them, actually arguing with them and making sure that they felt they're stupid and you felt smart. Can't do that, guys. Does that make sense? So the purpose of the power of attorney section is to get the client to understand access to the money is more important than return on money. And any financial advisor doesn't pay extra attention to that fact is a lousy financial advisor. It's to make them to be worried about their situation at risk. But are we going to mention their advisor? No. We're going to say, what kind of advisor would I be? And then we go through the scenario of, if you came to me and it wasn't working, so I won't even take a client on. I won't even bring a client on unless their power of attorney is perfectly done. Because I never want to be in that situation of having to look somebody in the eye. See, I'm making sure they're visualizing going to their guy, I'm not going to bring up their guy, but I want them to visualize the fact that if they go to their guy and there's a problem, that guy's going to have to say what? Sorry, you're not going to get the money. He touched on all these things, but do you think the clients internalize any of these things? No way. Why not? Because he touched on them, but do you think internalize all three? And how often did you hear the woman talking? Rarely. He needed to engage her much more. Because remember, on the non-financial stuff, who are we engaging in the non-financial stuff? We want to make sure that this person who does not, in the beginning she tried, Dino says, you're exactly right. And at the end she tried too. And both the advisor and her husband treated her like she didn't know anything. And they told him that all the other advisors checked his, and you see, he just moved completely backwards. By not getting on their side, this whole thing fell apart. And the clients missed the point. Double miss. Does that make sense? So is this a script or a conversation? So we see the reason he made all these problems or had all these problems is why? Because he was so worried about getting through the script that he didn't actually have a conversation with them. And anytime they tried to have a conversation, what did he do with that conversation? He beat them down and said, no, you're getting your part of the conversation wrong. Let me help you. Because you don't know anything about this. Let me help you because you keep making mistakes with your part of the conversation. How long are people going to converse with you is every time you bring something up, you tell them they're wrong or correct them. They're just going to shut down and no longer want to talk to you. Does that make sense? So is this helpful to hear this? I mean, how much different was this as compared to Bob's on Friday? I mean, when you listen to this one and you listen to Bob's on 180 degrees. Do you see how things go perfectly well when you do it the right way, and it can go really bad when you do it the old-fashioned way, which is to tell them what they need to know. Does that make sense, everybody? Terrific. Then sorry about the mix-ups here and at the beginning of the call. And go ahead and go download the why action questions so you can start working on those, not only for the outside the box, but for the 21-point checklist meeting. So you get very good at asking those why question meetings. And I hope you all have a terrific week, and we'll talk to you, or actually Jeff will be talking to you on Friday again. So I'll be out with my boy looking at colleges. So have a great week, and we'll talk to you. Jeff will talk to you on Friday, and I'll talk to you next Monday. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.